Hi, and welcome to Being Earthling, a podcast dedicated to exploring what it means to be a human on this earth and the human experience that connects us deeper to the earth and deeper to our true meaning of why we're here, instead of being gross humans that live in a world that is full of capitalism and grossness. And can we go on? No, let's not. So welcome to our podcast. I'm Jenny. I am here to explore these concepts with you and also have some space to explore them for myself. I encourage you to also, if this feels right for you, explore what it means to be human to you, because we all have different thoughts. But I think the biggest thing about being human or being earthling that I want to explore is the idea of getting out of the mind and connecting to the body and finding more of a balance between the two. I think that as a human, and seeing many humans, we live so much in our mind and we don't really think about how we're impacting Earth or how we can live in more of a harmony with Earth and all of the living beings that live here. So in today's episode, we are going to cover the homework that I made last episode and also ground in what I'm going to explore this week, share some reflections, and then also a new segment that I thought of, which is Stories from Earth. And I'm really excited about it. It reminds me of my nature preschool years, where you kind of just improv and make stories up and do your thing. So I'm excited to share that with you all today. But let's start with my homework that I had last week, or the last episode that we went through. And then I can share a little bit of my reflections within each of those, and then how being on land really solidified some of those reflections I was having. So let's remind what my homework was. My homework was to go solo outside by myself. Check, did that. To create and write. Check, did that. To go to a gathering. Yeah, check, did that. And then to nourish my body. And I definitely had a struggle with that, but I did that. So some of the reflections, we're going to kind of bounce around a little bit. I'm going to share some of my, doing the activities with you and see if that feels right. I'm still learning about how we want to set this, gathering up, because sometimes I'm like, do I really want to, film myself doing these things? So we're still, going through that. Okay, y'all? So, bear with me if, next episode we kind of, change it up. So let's go through my gathering when I went to my knitting gathering that I went to. This was really fun. I enjoyed myself. I want to share just what I was saying before the gathering. So let's show that clip. Hi. I'm getting ready for my knitting circle, so my gathering for the week. I'm really looking forward to it. It's at my local yarn store, so it feels really cool because I know some of the people that work there, and so I'm excited to bring my projects along and see what comes up. I'm a little nervous because I've never gone to a group like this before, and I'm new, so I feel a little nervous, but mostly excited to be working on my projects. I'm not sure which one I'm going to work on, but I have two, so I thought I would just show you the projects that I have. Let me go ahead and show you that. All right, the first project I have is almost complete. This is the Cloud Sweater by Petite Knit. This is the one that I've been working on in class, and basically I just have the sleeve left. I already did the other one, so I just have the sleeve left, and then that one's done. The other project I'm working on is also a petite knit pattern. This one is, oops, let me just move the yarn a bit. This one I just cast it on a couple of days ago, but it's very quick. This is going to be a vest. I think it's the novice vest. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to work on while I'm there. I'm hoping that they can help me with like figuring out how to do this collar, because the collar is essentially going to be like a rib collar. So we'll see if anyone can support me on that or help me figure out how to do that. But yeah, I love the colors. I'm kind of like leaning towards the green one to work on in class, just because the yarn that I chose is super, super, super like, oh, it's like so beautiful. It's like so soft. I've been working on like the blue one for like 5 weeks now, pretty exclusively. So I'm kind of like sick of it, but I also want to wear it. So I'm like, which one do I work on? So we'll see. So as you can see, I was a little nervous before the gathering. I wasn't sure what I was going to work on. And even there, I could feel like myself shrinking and expanding and wanting to connect, but not really knowing how to. And that was definitely something that came up later when I did my land exploration. And that's definitely something that I'm curious about. I think that being human, we're always living here, or at least I feel like I'm living here, like I mentioned before, and I'm so disconnected from my heart and from my soul and from my light. And that was definitely reflected how much I like to put a barrier around myself. And I was actually reflecting on this before our gathering today. I was thinking about how I feel like I am a true lion inside. Like, like I like to move, I like to be free, but how often I do trap myself into being in a zoo and kind of like suppressing this wild side that I have. And that was something that I felt when I was at the gathering, and it makes me curious. I feel like I'm learning that I don't need to know exactly why I'm doing those things, but instead of considering like being curious about that and taking it as a learning opportunity to then reflect on further. And yeah, I enjoyed the gathering. I'm grateful I went. I'm definitely going to have to do more of those, just to get myself out there and just to learn further about like, yeah, what am I needing to shed, and how can I become more of this lion that's inside of me? And yeah, I'm excited to see what that happens for me. So let's move on to writing. I haven't written a story. I think my journal said I hadn't written a story since February, which is wild. Writing is definitely something that feels really beautiful for me. Writing stories specifically, like stories that I don't really think about before I sit down. I just kind of let the pen and the paper tell the story for me. So what I found through that practice is how beautiful, how absolutely beautiful it is to write a story, and how it can really reflect my inner workings in an outer world, or like an outer way. And how the feelings that I might be having inside, or that I hear myself telling myself, thinking about, how those can so so weird, but how poetic they can be, and how much more empathy I can have for myself when I write stories. Like how it just feels so grounding and freeing. Again, that lion, she was free there, guys. And so that felt really nourishing to sit down and write and just let myself go. I find like creating like a ritual before my writing sessions is helpful. So I definitely like made some tea. I lit like a little bit of like incense. And then, yeah, it took some time before I wrote. I also do this practice, which I can share, is like sometimes I look at oracle cards. Like I just pick an oracle card, and oftentimes if I'm like not really feeling creative and not sure like what I'm doing at my desk trying to write, the oracle card can sometimes shape my writing. And so that's definitely didn't come up during this session of writing, but in the past it has, and it's been really, really helpful. So yeah, I'm definitely wanting to do that more, just because it did provide me with so much empathy for myself. So let's talk a little bit about nourishing. This was interesting, y'all. Lots of reflection here as well, because I feel like the body is a vessel and we have to take care of it in order to continue to have this human experience in this like meat suit. As Jessica Langhetto says, she's a podcaster that I really love. Ghost of a Pod. Check her out if you like astrology stuff. Check her out if you don't, because it's beautiful. But yeah, I have to nurture this vessel, this being, in order to continue to have my human experience. And I think that is a tricky thing, because for me, I'm still stuck in like this capitalistic like produce, and like don't give a shit about your body kind of mindset. And that came forward as a reflection for me, where I'm like, wow, you really just want to push through, or you really just want to eat that thing, and does that actually serve you? And granted, like, yes, we have to like eat things we love too, because that's part of my human experience. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I'd like to be a little bit more mindful of like, yeah, how am I nurturing you? Am I moving when I hear like that voice in my head that's like, you've been sitting here for a while, move. And one thing that came up was like, I've been knitting a lot and sitting a lot and getting hyper focused on my knitting that I can't do anything. I feel like I'm like, I need to finish this. I need to do this. I need to have this done. And so that's where like those capitalistic like ideals are coming in and popping forward. So it was beautiful to be able to nurture myself in some ways, and then also how much reflection did come forward after like sitting and preparing for like this gathering today, is like how much I do hyper focus on things, and is it serving me? If it's serving me, then like keep doing it. But if it's causing me to just like be thinking about that thing, wanting to finish it, wanting like putting other things aside just to do this, that's where I think I need to explore more, right? Okay. So the big juicy one, our last homework from last week, was going outside solo. And this was the hardest for me to do. Like, it's wild to me. I think it's because I have to drive, a little bit of ways to get out and land in the way that I want to. Granted, I go outside basically every single day. I have a dog, I have to walk them. And I like go to the park and I feel the feet, like the grass underneath my feet. But this practice was like, I want to be like completely solo outside, meaning I don't really want to run into anyone else. I just want to have like this experience where I can fully connect with my body and explore what that looks like. And that sounds like so weird. Like, connect with my body. But you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to have space by myself to just play and not feel weird about some passerby seeing me dancing or whatever. So this is where like the bulk of my like lessons came from about being an earthling, was from reconnecting to earth. And I am an earth sign. So y'all know, if you're an earth sign, you just feel really grounded with earth. And I definitely feel like that. Like, I feel like myself. And I definitely feel like as a earthling, I am earth. And earth is like my biggest teacher. Like, hands down, anything that's happening in my outer world or inner world can be so reflected back to me when I'm sitting with earth. And I feel that so much, and that's definitely what came forward. There was so many lessons that came forward just from that 45 to an hour session I had outside. So I spent most of it walking and trying to get out of my mind, and finding ways to reconnect with like this animal part of me, which is like, do what feels good. Like, you can do anything here, y'all. Like, you can do anything here, girl. So I found myself creating on earth, and I oftentimes make the same kind of symbols, and it's not like I plan it. It's just what comes out of me. And while I was walking, I ended up like creating a spiral and sitting with that for a little bit and realizing how much like I do spend either spiraling in my thoughts, but also how spirals can lead you to yourself. And that was a beautiful reminder, like sitting with earth and making that and feeling that, and also like sharing so much gratitude for earth, for like just being earth so we can live here. So it was beautiful. And then I found this beautiful like opening, and I ended up sitting there for a while and dancing with the wind. I was having a hard time here in the sense that I was so nervous somebody was going to walk in on me, like being a donkey. And not, like, I'm saying that in the kindest way possible, but being a donkey. And I didn't want anyone, that's where like a lot of like the mind started to tap in. Like, I would feel into my body and like feel into the wind and be dancing with the wind, and then all of a sudden I would be in my head again. And that was interesting to explore, that of like, how do I come back to my body? How do I find safety in my body and let them know I'm safe so I can keep going deeper into feeling this connection with earth? So that was a balance, and that was something that was reflected back to me over and over again, is to take time to just be. So sitting was really nice, laying was nice. And yeah, that experience like reminds me so much of how valuable being with earth is, and how valuable it is to get out of the mind and to be. And I really, really appreciated that. I was so attracted to, while I was like hiking and walking and doing my exploration, is like the shadows were really calling me, and how much as a human we see like the shadow sides of ourselves and we want to hide those, but how beautiful it is when we can shine light on those areas. So that was something that came forward while I was hiking, was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, I am beautiful, and I can be both this like raw person and also this like beaming light. And that is what my human experience is that this kind of comes back to like emotions. Like, no emotion is bad. There's reasons why we feel anger, and exploring all of those sides and how everything can be a teacher, how everything can be a lesson, and how I can choose to show up within that. So I really appreciated the shadows. They were really catching my eye when I was hiking. It's just like seeing how beautiful the light and the dark are, and when they come together, how magical it can feel. So I really enjoyed that. Let me look at my notes, because I think there was a couple of other things I wanted to a couple of other things that came up were like shrinking and expanding, which I thought about, where like caterpillars shrink when they move, and then they expand and shrink and move and expand, and how that can also be reflected in the way that I feel about myself, is that I do shrink when I'm in social situations, but how that shrinking can lead to expansion, and how right now, like taking the time to reflect on my shrinking times, how that's going to ultimately expand me forward, because I'm shining light on this area that I hide and that I dim, and how I can see that piece of me with empathy and then provide some light to that place. So that was something that came forward. And then the last thing is like this task mindset. I was watching my nephew, and there was times where I felt like I have to get this task done. I have to do this thing, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do that. And what it actually showed me too is that I do that a lot. Like, I have to get my jobs done before I can play. And obviously that comes from my childhood. My mom used to always say that to us. But how living in that space really disconnects me from the present moment, and how tasks that need to get done, do they need to get done? And how can I bring a different lens to these tasks? And then how can I be more grounded in myself? So with my nephew, that was a really big lesson for me, is just how can I ground and follow my intuition here? And that was the beautiful part, is finding that. Because when I finally found that, I felt a connection, and I was out of my mind and in my body. And how beautiful that is to then share that with a being that is so young, that lives in their body and has a better balance, maybe, I don't know, than me as an adult, where I'm in my mind and not in my body as much. So I loved that reflection, and I loved being with him. And obviously I used to be a teacher. Teaching and caregiving is something I really deeply enjoy. So I like to explore how I can do that more in this world. All right, so that's my reflection from my last episode's homework. And before we go into homework for next episode, I'd like to share our new segment, Stories from Earth. And this is very beautiful because this is like a part of what it means to be human, is sharing stories. So if you ever have a story that you write about Earth or whatever story, feel free to leave it in the comments and I will read it in one of our episodes, because I think that this is a beautiful thing to do. It's one thing that like humans would do all the time, and what I enjoy so much about being human is telling stories. So in today's story, we're going to meet a tree, and this tree is going to have a hard time letting go. Reminiscent of your girl. Alright, so let's get cozy. Let's pretend like we're around a fire, and let's go. Once upon a time, there was a little tree, and this tree lived in a forest with many, many different trees. This tree saw the spring for the first time and saw how their buds would open up and burst with new leaves. In the summer, they felt their bodies moving and making food, and their sap moving up and down their body. Not sure why they were making all of this food. Not sure why the sap was moving up at their body, but knowing that there was a reason. In the fall, they started to notice that their leaves were changing colors. Their leaves were no longer green, but instead, this beautiful red started to come out at the tips of their leaves. And they were wondering, like, why is this happening? I see all of my other friend trees in my forest, and their leaves are changing too. But I've never seen this before. And what does this mean? Slowly, the red crept more and more down, covering the green completely, until the leaf was fully red. And the tree wondered, what's happening? What's going on? Where is my green? I'm not feeling this urge to make food anymore. And then slowly, their leaves started to fall, all the way down to the earth. Again, they questioned, what's happening? What's going on? Where are my leaves going? There was one leaf left, and it was hanging on the tree. And the tree was worried. Through this process of losing all their leaves, they kept on feeling more and more and more worried. Why is this happening? What's going to go on? And this one leaf was left, and it wanted to be released, but the tree wouldn't let it. Why are you leaving me? I don't want to be alone. I need you. I don't know what to do without all of my leaves, and all of them have gone, and you're the only one left. Please don't go. And the leaf looked at the tree and said, this is part of the process. You have to let me go in order to make space for something new. Trees lose their leaves in the fall, so we can rest for winter. But I don't want you to go. What's going to happen in winter? You're going to be able to rest and release anything that needs to be released. But it's time to let go. Letting go is hard, but it's important to make space for something new. So the tree let the leaf go, and the tree was bare. All winter long, the tree's leaves were gone on the earth, decomposing, making homes for animals. The tree felt cold, but supported, as all of the other trees were communicating with each other with their roots. And come spring, the tree felt their body open up and the sap moving through their trunk all the way to the leaves, all the way to the buds. And slowly they opened. And how the tree felt refreshed from the winter, from the stillness, and grateful for letting go. That's it. This is something, storytelling is something that I find there's so much value in, and with this story, I oftentimes have a hard time in the fall of letting things go. Even my body does. Like, when I go to acupuncture, we have to work on my stomach, my digestion a lot in the fall because of letting go can be hard. And not knowing what's going to happen next can be hard. And reflecting and resting and nurturing and not feeling like you have to do anything can be hard. But when we take time to let go, to shed the things that no longer serve us, to give us the time to rest, to replenish, something new always buds. And so I'm going to leave us there. Thank you for being here, for sharing your light with me, and I'm grateful that we can sit down together and for this space to share. I guess before I go, I forgot that I want to share my homework for next gathering, and I don't know what that's going to look like when our next episode comes out, but that's part of the beautiful process of this. So I'm going to stick with 4. I think last time I combined like create and write together, but I'm going to stick with 4 goals. So again, the outdoor solo time is something that I want to continue. Community connection, I think that's very valuable. The trees definitely share that with us, where land is always together in a community. And as a human, for me, it can be a hard choice to be in community. So I want to continue to step out of my cage and into the wild and be able to show and shine my light to everyone. I want to create with a different medium. I've been really drawn to clay. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. I was going to go to a clay class. I'm really excited because I'd like to continue to explore with my hands in a different medium than just like knitting or writing all the time. But I still do want to write. So that's not part of my homework, but I want to still write. And then movement. I think I don't spend enough time curating and cultivating movement, and dance is a big piece of me and I enjoy, so I'd like to spend some time dancing this week or during like this time, and seeing how that helps me come out of my mind. So that's where I'm going to leave this episode. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'm looking forward to gathering with you in the next episode. Bye.